In SQL, the limit function may not be doing what you think it's doing. A lot of people will use a limit function like this at the end of their code to reduce the amount of data that's being surfaced, and they'll also do this because they think that it's making the query run faster. But frequently that's not the case, and here's the example to prove it. The query that we're looking at here is a really simple query that has an aggregate function and a left join. If we run this block of code, it takes about 9 seconds to complete. So in an attempt to make a query run faster, a lot of people will put this limit function at the end just like this. But when we run this query, it takes, again, about 9 seconds to complete, so it's not really running any faster. We can dig a little bit deeper here to understand why this is a case by understanding how SQL works and how an explain plan will show you this. When this query runs, the first thing that it's going to do is it's going to look at the tables that are being used and the join condition logic that's being used on those tables. After that data is joined together, the database is going to look for any where condition logic to filter out that data further, and in our case, there isn't any. After that, the database is going to run that aggregate function, aggregating and grouping our data. And then only after that operation is complete will the limit function actually come into play. This is why the query doesn't run any faster by simply placing the limit on the end, and we can look at the explain plan to confirm what I'm saying. If I highlight this block of code without the limit function on it and then look at the explain plan, you can see that the operations happen just as I described. Then when we go back and highlight all of this code that includes the limit function and look at the explain plan, you can see that the limit is happening at the end of the query. So if the limit function isn't making this query any faster in this case, how might we get around that to speed up performance? If we simply wanted to sample our data, what we need to do is thin down the amount of rows that we have as far upstream as possible, and this means making the join as efficient as possible. You could do this by taking that first table and limiting it to 10 rows by using code like this. Now, this isn't necessarily my preferred way to program this, but it is an example that'll suffice for demonstration purposes. Now you can go ahead and run this code, and you can see that it takes less than a second to complete. When we flip over to the explain plan, you can see exactly why, because we're reducing the number of records as far upstream as possible, which means that the database has to join on fewer records. So next time you're trying to make your query faster, don't simply drop a limit on the end. Make sure that you have a firm understanding of how SQL works and how it runs the code, then check the explain plan to make sure that your understanding is correct.